From the creators of You Only Use 10% of Your Brain Power and You Can Learn New Things Like a Language While Asleep. Believe it or not, there's a whole army of teachers out there who will use this method of whispering words to you while you sleep.
I will be your English teacher.
Anyway, I present to you, drumroll please, what's your learning style? Seriously folks, it's time we debunk this learning styles myth once and for all and talk about what really works. So that is what we're going to talk about in this video. But before we do that, let me tell you a little bit of the story of how I came to that realization that the learning styles theory is a myth. So recently, I met up with my group of amazing English learners in one of our weekly Heroic English Conversation Meetups. So Heroic English, by the way, is a high-impact group for English fluency development and speaking practice and mindset development as well. It's designed for intermediate and advanced English speakers who want to take their English to the next level. We are meeting every Saturday, and if you want to check it out for free, I've left a link in the description of this video, or you can simply go to heroicenglish.com. Anyway, so we have a fantastic hour-long conversation around the science of successful learning, inspiring this incredible book called Make It Stick. One of the great insights that we discovered is that learning is more meaningful and long-lasting when it's effortful. In the words of the authors of this book, learning that's easy is like writing in sand. Here today, gone tomorrow. You're with me, right? Learning that's effortful is better than learning that is effortless, that doesn't cost you any effort. That's not so great. Then I saw a quote in this book. We understand that everyone has their own learning preferences, but we are not convinced that matching the instructional style to those preferences necessarily leads to better learning outcomes. Meaning, if you prefer to learn in a visual way, for example, it doesn't mean you're gonna get better results if all you're doing is learning visually, or if you have someone else teach you via a visual heavy routine. Preference doesn't equal better in the same way that easy doesn't equal more effective. Anyway, this was a massive light bulb moment for me, and I remember from my school days, teachers would talk about Gardner's learning styles. Like, there are visual learners, there are auditory learners, and there are kinesthetic learners. But here's the truth. If you want to speak English fluently and confidently, any time that you spend thinking about what's my learning style is wasted time. And I mean this in a broad sense, right? So forget about the visual, auditory, kinesthetic styles. Instead, ask yourself, what am I doing to continuously develop my fluency in English? What am I doing to continuously grow as a person? Or you could also ask yourself the question, am I enjoying it and having fun? Am I making progress? Am I creating results? I learn best by smelling things. Is this the auto-based class? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just too open-minded. Anyway, so we had a blast at Heroic English that day, and this conversation really sparked my curiosity to dig a little bit deeper into the myth of learning preferences or learning styles. And so I came across a book, 50 Great Myths of Popular Psychology, Shattering Widespread Misconceptions About Human Behavior. A few of these 50 myths are linked to learning English and developing your fluency. So even the first one, most people use only 10% of their brain power. So think about how many times you've heard that and probably thought, wow, I must be a superhuman genius. I mean, if I can accomplish so much with only 10% of my brain, imagine what I will be able to accomplish if I used 60% of my brain power. Anyway, so the second myth is also kind of related. Some people are left-brained, others are right-brained. Yeah, that's a myth. Then we have myth 21, and this is hilarious. People can learn new things, like languages, for example, while asleep. So if you're curious, go and grab a copy of that book or even an audio book version of the book, and you're gonna get a detailed breakdown of why these things are myths. And you know what? There is a hilarious article about this idea of the learning styles on theonion.com. It's an old article, and it pokes fun at this concept of learning styles. And the headline reads, "Parents of nasal learners demand author-based curriculum. My child is not stupid," one parent says. "There simply was no way for him to thrive in a school that only caters to traditional students who absorb educational concept by hearing, reading, seeing, discussing, drawing, building, or acting out." You see the sarcasm there, right? Another parent says, "Now I realize all these D's and F's did not really represent any failure on my daughter's part, rather her school's failure to provide an appropriate nasal-based curriculum." Yeah, it makes sense. Anyway, now let's focus on things that are not urban legends and that are actually supported by science and that actually work. So let's reintroduce the truth that learning is deeper and more durable when it's effortful. And again, don't pass up on this magnificent opportunity to attend the next Heroic English Conversation Meetup. You are going to be joining me and other passionate, motivated English learners in discussing all about learning, the very topic of this video, but also other very important mindset development topics. So again, find the link in the description of this video or just go to heroicenglish.com. Quoting the authors of Make It Stick, "We are poor judges of when we're learning well and when we are not. When the going is harder and slower and it doesn't feel productive, we're drawn to strategies that feel more fruitful, unaware that the gains from these strategies are often temporary." And so, let me ask you something. Let's take that very paragraph I just shared with you and imagine you had to master the information in that paragraph. What do you think would be more effective? Option A, you read the text and then highlight the most important parts of that text. Then you're done with it, and after a while you come back and you reread it. Of course, you're going to be focusing a little bit more on the highlighted bits. Option B is you read a text just like in option A, right? And maybe if you want, you can highlight some important parts of the text. That's okay. But after you're done with it, instead of coming back and rereading what you had read, you first try to remember what you learned, what you read. Instead of just rereading, you ask yourself, what did I read? What did I learn? So you actually test yourself a little bit before going back and checking that your memory of what you read is actually correct. So obviously option A is a lot easier than option B, and it's called rereading or revisiting the original material. So obviously you're doing some things well because you're reading the text, so you're getting more familiar with the information, and then you're also discerning the most important bits of that information when you highlight some portions of the text. There's some merit in doing that, of course, but then when you go back and just reread, that's the lazy way. It's a lot more effective when you actually ask yourself, what did I read? And you try to remember to actively retrieve what you learned, what you read. This is called active retrieval, and I know it feels like heavy lifting and it's uncomfortable, but that's the point. It's like going to the gym and choosing between the styrofoam weights or the real weights. Which ones are the ones that are gonna produce the results at the gym? Anyway, so active retrieval is a powerful tool that you can use to learn better. Now, do you want to take active retrieval to the next level? Use spaced out repetition. This is basically asking yourself the question, what did I read? Or what did I learn? What did I hear? What did I absorb? Whatever. But asking yourself that same question later today, tomorrow, maybe 3 days from today. This is what's supported by science, and a lot of apps have built some technology around this notion of spaced out repetition and active retrieval. Apps like Anki have this system where you learn a new word, you put it into your log or record of words learned, and then the app is going to ask you, what does that word mean 4 days from now, a week from now, and a month from now maybe. And again, when you ask yourself the question, what did I read? You don't simply skip answering the question and just go back and reread what it was. First, you make the effort to remember. If you can retrieve it easily, that means your learning of that new concept, word, whatever is okay. If it takes you some time, it means you're still struggling a little bit, but that's okay. The fact that it's taking you time to retrieve it from your memory is an action that's strengthening your retention of that concept, word, whatever. Now, if you want to take your active retrieval and your spaced out repetition even to another level, add a thing that's called elaboration, meaning explain it in your own words. When you really internalize a concept, an idea, or a word, then when you explain it, you're not going to be reciting like from memory how it was explained in the book, in the text, whatever. It's kind of like you regurgitate that and pardon the image, and you explain it in your own words because you already own that information. It's in your head, and how you take it out of your head is a process that you are in control of. So the original information in that paragraph that I shared was, when the going is harder and slower and it doesn't feel productive, we're drawn to strategies that feel more fruitful, unaware that the gains from these strategies are often temporary. But then when you explain it in your own words, you would say probably something like, if it's challenging and difficult, it's hard to learn. And because of that, maybe we would want to switch to something that feels easier. But that doesn't mean it's going to be more effective. Maybe the way that I would say it in my own words, in the way that I would want to speak using a sort of like comparison is, I would say, if you choose the path of least resistance, the quality of your learning is going to be lower. So your English learning and fluency development is a lot better when you do it with these best practices for learning: active retrieval, spaced out repetition, and elaboration. But what does it really look like when you're learning English and you're using these practices? And I'll wrap up the video with this. Say that you're trying to learn the second conditional in English, and you might say, okay, let me Google that. So you get an explanation, and instead of you just simply mindlessly reading the explanation and then say, okay, I don't really know if I understand this, and you're done with it, and then you go and open up your Instagram or TikTok and completely forget about your initial intention of wanting to learn. Well, instead of doing that, so you read the information, you try to comprehend it, and then you close your computer, put away your phone or whatever it is, the device you're using to learn this new information, and ask yourself, what did I read? Okay, so what I remember from what I read is it's if, and then the past tense, right? And then the I would, right? I would do something. That's the pattern, if I'm not mistaken. You also have the example sentence, if I won $1 million, I would buy a new car. So what you're doing there is you're actively retrieving the information you read. Now, add some spaced out repetition. Ask yourself about that tomorrow, 3 days from now, a week from now, and even a month from now. And start elaborating, meaning maybe change that example sentence. Instead of saying, if I won $1 million, say, if my salary was higher, I would book a vacation in Greece, for example. Or if I won $10,000, I would take my kid to Disneyland. So that's how you elaborate. You're still using the pattern of the second conditional, but you are elaborating on it. And that's elaboration, basically. Now, what's so awesome about learning English and developing your fluency and confidence in English is that it's based on conversation. Meaning all these active retrieval, spaced out repetition, and elaboration situations are going to happen organically as you engage with other people. You simply come across the patterns, maybe the sounds that you're trying to master, if you are actively engaging in conversation with other people. And again, become an English speaking hero and join me in this free English conversation meetup. So at Heroic English, we mix English practice with mindset development to help you not only improve your English skills, but also become a better version of yourself. So besides learning, our meetings include topics such as confidence, habits, growth mindset, flow, motivation and purpose, happiness, grit, and a lot more. To speak English fluently, you need some specific language skills, but if you also work on having a positive, growth-oriented mindset, you'll improve even more. So at Heroic English, we'll help you cultivate that kind of mindset, but also give you a lot of opportunities for you to practice your English. Because remember, it's all about becoming a better English speaker, but also becoming a better you. Anyway, I hope that you found this video interesting, and I'll see you next time.